No annual giving campaign can be successful without supportive, reliable, and enthusiastic leadership. Good leadership sets the tone for all other volunteers and donors within your agency. This video will go through 3 different points about leadership: the importance of the CFD in the community, the importance of leadership support in the CFD, and tangible ways leadership can support their agency volunteers. First, the importance of the CFD in our community. There are thousands of charities battling issues all around us, from hunger to the environment to education and beyond. And the news is tough. Right now, 1 in 5 children in Washington State do not know where their next meal is coming from, experiencing food insecurity on a daily basis. That's 1 in 5. According to the ASPCA, a national charity that deals with animals, between 6 to 8 million animals are abandoned or placed in shelters each year in the United States. And according to the World Wildlife Fund, about 36 football fields worth of trees are lost every minute to deforestation around the world. A federal government study found that nearly 2/3 of students who cannot read proficiently by 4th grade will end up in jail. When you see these issues, it can be intimidating. How can my small gift make a difference at all? But the key is to never think like this, because the minute you minimize your gift or think it's too small, it is. Just take a look at funding that went to the 4 categories of service that would impact the causes we just talked about. Hunger and food distribution, which deals with food insecurity on a daily basis, received more than $567,000 from the donors of the CFD just last year. To put that into perspective, Northwest Harvest says that 67 cents feeds a family of 3. Animals in the environment, a category that houses charities like the ASPCA and the World Wildlife Fund, received more than $633,000 in 2014. Take that out 10 years, and more than $6 million has gone to causes related to animals and the environment in the last decade. The final 2 categories, which deal with literacy and education, as well as children, youth, and family services, saw more than $800,000 go to charities in those categories. That means that over the last 10 years, more than $20 million has gone to just these 4 categories alone. And that makes a difference. None of this would be possible without strong leadership accepting the responsibility of making a change in our community. But how do you do that? And what does it look like? Take a look at a couple of examples of different agencies that have benefited from strong leadership. The Department of Social and Health Services has always been a high-performing agency. In 2012, they brought in just over $507,000 in pledges. In 2013, they saw that rise to over $518,000. And in 2014, they saw that number increase to $531,000. Now, how is this possible? It can, in part, be attributed to the strong leadership of Secretary Kevin Quigley, who went on one of the most ambitious tours to fight hunger throughout the state. His efforts brought in tens of thousands of dollars to local food banks and brought in more than $100,000 worth of food donations. He also won the Leadership Award in 2014. The Department of Revenue is also an example of a large agency that has had strong performances in the combined fund drive. In 2012, they were at 19.31%. That increased in 2013 to 20.34%, well above the state average. But in 2014, they increased more than 7% to 27.37%. How did they see an increase of more than 8% in just 2 years? That can also be attributed to their very strong leadership from Carol K. Nelson, who in 2 years engaged the Department of Revenue like never before. Her executive management team even did an ALS Ice Bucket Challenge for charity, and did it through the combined fund drive. Her efforts were also good enough to win the Executive Leadership Award in 2014. And finally, the Department of Health, one of the best examples of how leadership can change the face of an agency. They also have been a high-performing agency for years. In 2012, they were at 19.44%. But in 2013, they saw a decline to 17.72%, just a shade above the state average. However, in 2014, they saw an increase of 11%, by far one of the highest increases in participation percentage throughout the program in 2014. So what were the common denominators? Well, in 2012, their secretary was Mary Selecki, a longtime executive manager and huge supporter of the Combined Fund Drive effort. In fact, she won the Leadership Award in 2012. However, she retired in early 2013, which left a leadership gap in the agency until they were able to hire a new person. That occurred late 2013, and in 2014, their new secretary supported the program to the fullest extent. And the campaign leaders also went on to win a statewide award. So how can you, as a leader, support the efforts of your volunteers and the Washington State Combined Fund Drive? Well, here are a couple of examples. You can support through giving, because when you give, it sets the tone for everyone else to do the same. Give them the time. Being a volunteer with efforts like the Combined Fund Drive requires taking the time to become knowledgeable on the program and confident enough to make the ask. Make sure you let your volunteers experience this by allowing them to attend trainings and plan out their events. Support the recruiting effort. No volunteer can run the CFD on their own. Make sure to let the volunteers build their teams. Support at events. Always try attending your agency events, and if you can, even take a few moments to address the group and thank them for coming. Support through messaging. If you can't make events, mentioning the power of giving and the benefits of CFD through emails, phone calls, or even agenda items at management meetings always works well. We thank you very much for agreeing to be a leader in making change for the community.